What's going on, everybody? Dave here, the Reef Aquarium shop in Indianapolis, Indiana. It is Monday. That is when we go live and do an open Q&A here on YouTube. If you enjoy our live streams here on YouTube, you will also, I imagine, enjoy what we do live on Facebook as well. So if you're not following us there, check us out on Facebook. Every Thursday, we will go live and do room tours of both our freshwater fish room and saltwater fish room. So jump on there and check it out. We're also other places as well. We are on here, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Speaking of Instagram, I do have a guest today, which I am very excited about. But before I jump into that, I do want to make a real quick announcement. We posted on our Facebook page earlier today that we have created 3 new job positions here in 2021, kicking things off strong. We are really trying to make some expansions this year and pushing hard for that. So we actually have 3 new job openings currently. You can see more information about that posted on our Facebook page, Instagram, or just go to TheReefIndy.com and go apply there. There's a little careers tab on the top. With that out of the way, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for joining us here on the live stream. If you haven't done so yet, smash that, it's over here, smash that subscribe button, hit that little bell notification, and that's going to let you know every time we go live and every time we post new content. And I try to go live once a week and post new content once a week, if I can, depending on what else I have going on anyway. But yeah, I try to just push out this content here for you guys and be relevant. If you have any ideas for any content that you want to see, drop them in the comments. Speaking of dropping things in the comments, I do like to treat these as an open Q&A. And even though I will be having a guest, we are still going to treat this as an open Q&A. So if you have questions about aquarium keeping, the shop in general, or the subject matter that we're about to talk about, drop those questions in the comments and we would be happy to answer those. What's going on, fam? What's going on, Audrey? Welcome everybody. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guest, Ryan Noel. Let's add to the stream. How about that? Ta-da! And I went ahead and just popped your other one up there because it did it automatically anyway. So this is Ryan. He is been a customer of ours for quite a while, but gaining a little bit of traction on Instagram and popping some awesome shots. But I wanted to first off welcome Ryan, and I wanted to bring you on today to just talk about your experience in the hobby and what you're focusing on. But first off, as I'm hoping I'm getting across, you are a local here in Indianapolis and a customer of ours. How'd you get started? How long have you been in this hobby?
Well, I had, like many people's stories start, a lot of failed aquariums and a lot of dead fish and newts. And I was telling somebody today that I think I've owned probably 20 newts, and I can't remember how any of those stories ended. I just can only assume they ended badly.
Yeah.
But the start of this story really picks up when my son brought home a couple of goldfish from a carnival, and I put them in a bowl, and they were dead within 90 minutes. And he was upset with me, and so I was like, let's try this again. So I went and got him a bed of fish, and I got some water conditioner this time, and I put him in the same bowl.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I should probably do a little bit of research here. And it turns out that betta fish don't really love to be in bowls with no water circulation and those kinds of things. And so it was that rabbit hole that kind of took me down the plants. And I saw some of those sort of gimmicky tanks where you have plants like sitting on top of bowls, which I guess are a half step better.
Yeah, sure.
But I went to to make it up to my son, I was like, let's go get an aquarium for you and this betta fish, and went into the reef and saw actual real plants, and my synapses started firing straight away. And you know, I'm a pretty avid gardener, and so I've long had an affinity for plants and for water. And then all of a sudden it was just like, you know, bam, a world started opening.
Yeah, that's just kind of how it happens, and that's like the one of the most common gateways into this hobby is the carnival goldfish, and or just you know, starting with the beta. But usually that's the story you get. You know, oh, my kid got a carnival goldfish. We killed that, and you know, that's where it all begins, man. But yeah, so you've been a customer with us. How long have you been coming into the shop?
So we probably picked up that first nano tank, I would guess maybe 2.5 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And kind of nursed that little nano aquarium along. You know, I actually had some success, but I planted the plants in the plastic pots into the tropical soil. So
yeah.
Lots of mistakes were made, but like, you know, looking back, it was pretty instrumental in my learning. You know, there were to make all the mistakes on kind of that small scale before the, you know, you know, I feel like I've got like a college degrees worth of YouTube knowledge, you know, since then.
Absolutely.
But at that time, but it's also super important to just make mistakes and screw up and spill water and all of that, and has all helped me, you know, even though it feels like I am a relative noob compared to a lot of people, but it's, I feel like I've gotten a crash course, you know, and been in a position to help other people who are where I was a year ago or maybe 2 years ago.
For sure. I mean, and when you say crash course, like you dove, you know, head first into this, like just watching your progression on your Instagram channel, which I'm gonna show to everybody here in just a little bit. But just watching your progression there, just I mean, honestly, not only in the type of shots you're taking and getting more comfortable with your tanks, but just in what you're doing and what you've learned, and you know, you're also not only posting pictures on your Instagram, but you're also writing about your journey, which that's one of my favorite parts, is getting kind of your insight into what you've been doing, and just your thoughts on the matters. But just, and I'm going to go ahead, and since I'm talking about it, might as well just bring it up. But this is Ryan's Instagram, the Aquascaping Rhino, play on your name there. But if you just all it takes is really just your first flash page here, and I'm hooked anyway. But you know, you just have some really gorgeous shots of you working on your tanks, just close-ups of you being fascinated with all the little intricacies of it, and like you were talking about the rabbit hole, it's just so sorry, I'm scrolling wrong way. It's just it's so easy to jump into this hobby, and one of the things that I find fascinating is that everyone catches on to something different, and everyone's going into, you know, like you're going to get a tank, and one person is going to catch on to, like, I'm really into like African cichlids, and I'm going to just dive into that and learn everything I can about African cichlids. You focus not only on planted tanks and plants, but kind of specifically on aquascaping. Like I think that out of just about anything else is what speaks to me most off of your images, is just your love of aquascaping, and not only looking at it but creating it. You're working on a tank currently, I believe, right? Yeah, somewhere in there. But why specifically? What about aquascaping attached you to it?
Well, I think I alluded to it earlier, that it's the the love of nature and the wanting to be close to nature is sort of innate. You know, it's something that a quality of mine that has just been there.
Yeah.
But I'm a designer and went to art and design school, and so I have a background in that, and it really speaks the same language. You know, when he got into aquascaping, a lot of the compositional elements and the balance of light and shadow. And I did a post recently about using plant leaves and hardscape as brushstrokes, because they have a direction and they have an energy. So in some ways I had a little bit of a head start because I was familiar with terminology that aquascapers use. You know, I had a lot of Latin names to learn in plants, and there's still a lot of you know, plants and colors in my palette that I haven't gotten to use yet. But the language is there, and even in the photography angle of it, you know, it's all the same. You're using the same terminology. What makes a good aquascape?
Golden ratio, rule of thirds, you know.
Yeah, all creating a focal point and taking somebody on a journey to that focal point. Those are qualities that are really good in an aquascape. They're really good in Instagram. They're really good in art. They're really good in music. So it was familiar terminology. So it was just this confluence of all these elements of nature and water and probably the pandemic that has created this firestorm that has really intrigued me, and like I said, just got those synapses firing, and I found it incredibly rewarding, and the fact that you get to live with it. You know, it's I do like to show that on Instagram. I do like to show a mess sometimes, because I think part of the joy of it is living with it, and I don't want to, at least as I portray on Instagram, something that is unrealistic for people, and that maybe it's an interesting contrast to this little kind of controlled bit of beauty surrounded by Barbies and Legos and, you know, whatever else. That all I find very interesting, and that's kind of what I like to show.
Absolutely. And I feel like anyway, at least a certain picture that you've posted came to mind, and I'm just gonna try to flash scroll through your stuff to find it real quick. But you're absolutely right. There's that one picture of there we go. All right, I'm gonna pull this up. But this is honestly was one of my favorites as well. This is exactly what you're talking about here. That's the first image that came to my mind when you were talking about that. And this is such a beautiful picture because, you know, you've got that chaos up front of you know, a living space, and then just the beauty of, like, I mean, come on, man, that's competition quality work right there, just sitting in the middle of that mess. You know, it's great. I love that. But yeah, absolutely. And it's great that it's interesting that you brought up the pandemic, because that has brought so many people into the hobby right now. After we shut down for a month in April, just to kind of see what was going to happen with this whole thing, we opened back up and we sold tank kit after tank kit after tank kit. It was ridiculous. It's honestly, I think it's one of the most one of the more rewarding hobbies that you can do at home, because you're right, it gives back. It's a living thing, and we are absolutely living with it for sure.
It's something to do, but it's also something to have, and it's like a salve almost for the situation that we're in. So you're right. It's an amazing hobby to be a part of in this moment in time, especially.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a way to to escape, you just I find myself with my tanks, something small, like I won't intend to sit there and look at my tanks, but like I'll walk by it, something small catches my eye, like a little fish running away or just the way a leaf moved. I'll like, what was that? And then I'll just end up staring at my tank and getting lost for the longest time, just in the beauty of it, and the living, breathing nature that it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the hobby in general, I didn't want to, I was trying to find the right word for it. I didn't want to pin it on any one aspect of the hobby. I think just the aquarium keeping hobby in general is one of the better things to pick up during the pandemic, and it just gives you something to do, and it's real rewarding.
Totally agree.
You actually had just mentioned about, you were talking about this, the article you were writing, talking about brush strokes with the leaves and facing a certain direction. We actually have contacted you about writing a little something for our blog that we're going to be releasing really soon. How's that going?
It's good. I've got a handful of ideas, but I've honed in on the one that I want to lead with.
Okay.
Cool. And it's about choosing the right hardscape.
Nice.
And it really goes into, my first visit to the reef. I bought a rock that was like, it was never going to fit in that aquarium if I wanted to have fish in it also,
Okay,
let alone a filter or anything else. It was just really naive. And so I get back and then I'm like, oh, shoot, that's not going to work. But it also didn't check any other boxes of like, what kind of hardscape the particular fish was going to thrive with. How did I want the tank to feel in the end? It didn't check any of those boxes.
Yeah.
And so what I want to give people in this first article is just get them thinking about what they want, maybe not be in such a hurry to buy the tank and get all the stuff all at once, but have a little bit of a plan. Patience, I think, is something that we could all use a little bit more of. And
the worst at it.
This is the good. And the aquarium hobby, it requires patience, especially aquascaping. So getting started right at the hardscape stage is probably a good place. And then just helping people, giving them some tools on, building a little dojo for themselves and then buying hardscape. What are they looking for? What kind of pieces are going to work well? So that's the kind of theme I want to explore, is just that first kind of George Farmer, one of my favorite aquascapers and YouTube creators. He talks about hardscape as being the backbone of the aquarium, and I really believe that. I think the aquarium that you're seeing has really good bones. As the wood was really thought out, and so the plants are hanging on that wood in a way that feels like it's got really good bones. So yeah.
Excellent. And this is a shot of one of your tanks. Now, how many tanks do you have up and running right now?
Well, I've got I guess 2.5. There's the one that is to this one.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to plant this weekend, so it's really close. And then I have a nano tank, and then I've also got this tank here, which is one of the cobalt little blown glass. It's like low iron glass. Yeah.
Nice. Which one did you grab? Do you remember?
That one, this one, I've got two.
Nice. I got a really good deal on them.
This one's the cube, and then I've got another that is the taller version.
Yeah.
And this one was really, I did as a hardscape craft exercise. I knew I was going to be gluing a lot of stones in my contest aquarium, so I got this dragon stone, and I just practiced on gluing the formation together and obscuring it with sand and making it look pretty seamless. And so that's going to be a tiny little waterfall with some Anubias and things like that.
you are sitting on the next level here. I'm just sitting here super impressed that you are practicing aquascaping. Did y'all catch that? Practicing aquascaping. No, I love it. That's amazing. And you were talking. You had some terminology a second ago. You mentioned a dojo. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a box that's the size of your aquarium, so that you can move rocks and wood around without fear of breaking your glass.
Yeah.
So the tank I'm getting this mixed up. This one, before I ever put stone in glass, I built a little plywood box that was roughly the size of, so that I could start just kind of mapping out the main stones, and without fear of scratching the glass. And also because I'm in a pretty high traffic area in my kitchen, sure. I can't just lay a bunch of stones on the floor. I need to kind of plan it out and be a little bit more methodical to minimize the mess. But it's, even without that, it's really worthwhile. You know, I in a recent post, I also talked about, that like the egg crate that is like a light diffusion. It's like a white grid.
Yeah.
I will cut that to the size of the aquarium and take it to the reef. Or, I've taken cardboard boxes the size of the tank that I'm scaping, so that I can kneel down in front of the the hardscape, the wood, and I can set it down on that, and I can get an idea of how it's going to fit and how it might look. And it just helps me be smarter about what pieces I buy. And also I can try a lot of different things. That's something you learn in art and design training, is like, a lot of the creative process is a deductive process. So you come up with a lot of ideas, and then you just gradually pare it down and get it simpler and simpler, or hone in on an idea. So that's just part of my training that's helped, and is I'm putting into the practice of aquascaping now instead of painting.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Now we've been talking about competitions, and you are, correct me if I'm wrong, currently setting up that tank for a competition. Is that right?
Yeah, this is for the IAPLC, which stands for the International Aquatic Plants Layout Competition in Japan. Okay. And it's the biggest. It's international, as the name says. And the top aquascapers in that competition are just amazing. The aquascapes that they come up with are amazing. And
for sure.
And so I don't have delusions of grandeur about, like making it to that top tier yet.
Right.
But it's the company that I want to keep. I'm looking to that for inspiration, and I've learned a ton from some of those top aquascapers. You can find them on YouTube, like Steve Scapes, Stephen Chong, who was number 2 this year, and is amazing. But yeah, so this one behind me is something that it started out as a drawing and a concept that was inspired by a photo that I took in Maui, and then I've gradually brought it to life, and the next thing is plants. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, very cool. And how long you've been kind of, I don't necessarily want to say painstakingly, but you've been taking your time and making sure everything is exactly the way you want with this setup. And again, if you guys want to follow along with that, jump onto his Instagram page, the Aquascaping Rhino, RYNO. And I have a link to that. I believe I have a link to that in the description, and if I don't, I will correct that as soon as this goes down. But if you guys want to check it out, I highly recommend it. You absolutely should. and you can actually kind of see some of the journey that he's taking with this tank. But that's a great thing that you said about entering competitions. Like, you're entering an international competition, and yeah, when you look at these first, like, you look at the top 20 placings in these and beyond in these, and they're just jaw dropping. It's like, is this real? Like, you're looking at some like Avatar type stuff out there, and it's just gorgeous. And some of them look like you're like legitimately walking through like the woods, and then there's fish going through it.
Yeah.
And to put yourself into a competition like that, not necessarily expecting to get up into that top tier, but I love what you said about that's the company I want to keep. That's just a real good thought. I like that.
And I entered this past year, and I never had a contest winning tank, and sort of the top 127 is like, the finalists basically, and that would be a goal that I would love to achieve in the next 5 years or so. But
that would be
last year I entered because there's no harm. It's free to enter, and it just encourages you towards a goal. If you start to get sort of myopically focused on making this tank as beautiful as you can. For me, I don't want to be embarrassed by what I put out there, but I came in 611th, which is like maybe top 25%, which is not an embarrassment.
No.
It's not where I want to be, but it taught me the process of maintaining a tank to make it as pristine as possible. The process of actually taking a photo, getting a tank ready to take a photo, because you don't, for instance, you don't want it purling a bunch, and having a bunch of bubble pollution. So just by doing it at no risk at all, other than just personal pride, it has helped kind of launch me into the next one. And I put myself into contact with people because of that, because of those goals. I was able to interact with a lot of really top aquascapers who helped me. And I think, sort of put my development on, a lot quicker pace. It's an advantage that the aquascapers of 5-10 years ago may not have had, that I can reach out to an aquascaper who is, finished in the top 30, and they can give me input and help me out. And that's been one of the biggest revelations in the hobby in general, is that, in an Instagram or Facebook, is that usually those people, even though it's competitive, really want to help you.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a community. It's definitely a community. And I mean, aquarium keeping in general is a community. And we were talking before we went live about the local clubs. And that's, I highly recommend for everyone to jump in on their local aquarium clubs, because you get a sense of local community. But if you can't, don't want to, or don't have that available to you for some reason, hop online, and there are plenty of communities out there for you to talk with other hobbyists. And Ryan, you're a great example of that. Even as far niched down as you are with aquascaping and planting and things of that nature, there is still a massive community within that portion of the hobby. And so, like we were talking about earlier, we are all, as aquarists, drawn to different things in the hobby. And one person's gonna jump on like monster fish keepers, you know, and that's going to be their jam. And, you know, someone else is going to be jumping onto the plant forums. And there's so many different ways to find a community within this hobby. And you're right. Absolutely. It's encouraging, you know. You can show your work and get actual constructive feedback from people who do this, like do this. Yeah. You know, and I don't want to necessarily say professionally, because for a lot of them it's not their profession. It's you know, but yeah, it's just a really cool hobby to be able to jump into. And again, whether you're coming into this and super interested in you like things like we're talking about, like aquascaping and planted tanks and things of that nature, there's just something for everyone in here.
There really is.
Am going to jump into the comments here. I've largely ignored them for the most part so far. So let's see here. I am going to clean this shot real quick. Let's see here. I've got a question from Hansel. And again, this is going to, before I jump into these, I guess, I do still want to treat this as an open Q&A. So even if it's not necessarily about what Ryan and I have been talking about, you can absolutely ask the question, and I'm happy to answer it for you. Hansel asks, can I leave my water sprite or any stem plant in the plastic pots with the rock wool? Had one before it withered away floating. Want to try the water sprite again, sand substrate. And the answer is, nah, you want to pull that out. We were actually, Ryan was just talking about how that was one of the initial mistakes he made as a hobbyist, was just leaving them in those plastic pots. And the reason for that, or one of the reasons for that, is because it restricts their growth into that just certain area. You want to give those stems and roots room to grow, room to breathe. Otherwise, they're just not. They're going to stop at a certain point, and the smaller base structure is not going to pull in enough nutrients, and yeah, it's just going to wither away and die.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely, please.
I think that first, addressing the sand substrate, since you don't have a nutrient-rich substrate, you're definitely going to want to add some supplements either into the sand near the roots or into the water column. So I would be careful to do that. And just a lot of times with stem plants, I will just take off the tops and plant the tops, because a lot of times when you get them, they're really long, and it's really nice and gratifying to throw them into your tank and you've got nice long plants. But it's to the benefit of the plant if you cut the tops and let new roots develop. Yeah,
for sure. And actually, to tack on to that, we're kind of starting our a little bit of some plant propagation, and one of the stem plants we've been working with is not a common find, and we had only we got them in, and they were about 6 inches. We let them get about to 8 inches, and we chopped them in half and started them immediately, because getting that fresher growth, it's a better start. It's a better start for sure. Which freaked one of the guys out. They're like, "You're having this already?" Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, fantastic question, Hansel. That one guy, not a question, but I'm going to pop it up here anyway. I'm good with making a mess, not good at scaping. And all it takes, like I said, Ryan's sitting over here showing us all up by sitting at home and practicing his aquascaping. But no, seriously, like it is not necessarily something that you have to just it doesn't necessarily have to click with you for you to actually be good at it. Like it can take a minute for you to put something together for sure. Like, Ryan was saying, come in with a vision, but for me, it doesn't necessarily work out like that. Like if you watched my series when I was setting up that Cobalt Seaview 18, I had a video about doing aquascaping, and I went over some of the rule of thirds and things of that nature. But and I do feel like I'm lean a little more artistically by nature, but you take, even if you don't have necessarily a plan, you go in with the right sized pieces and just start fiddling with it in creating that dojo, like Ryan was talking about. That's going to be key for someone who doesn't feel like they're good at aquascaping, who's trying to get better at it. One of the biggest things is we are our own biggest critics. You know, some people show me their I've got a picture of my tank, what do you think? I think it looks like garbage. And I'm sitting here going, that does not look like garbage at all. Like, that actually looks really good for you claiming to not know what you're doing. Like, no, we are our own biggest critics.
And I would just add on to that it just because that's the way I did things doesn't necessarily mean that's that's not even how I do it all the time. But I think that a good general, I don't believe that somebody just isn't good at aquascaping. I think there is, you get out of it what you put into it. And if you are willing to just try some things and fail and then try again, I think with practice, you're going to improve. So I fundamentally don't believe that you can't make something beautiful. I think you really can. I think what is helpful to creating a successful aquascape is, and the Reef Aquarium shop should like hearing this, is to buy more hardscape than you need, so that you can try different things. And then once you get you start to get better and better about what is going to actually work for these particular dimensions, and then maybe you don't have to buy as much the next time. But it's been recommended to me by a million different scapers, and I would recommend the same thing. Is I've got crates out in my garage where I'm just constantly buying hardscape pieces just over time. And putting them in there. And so, for the scape behind me, I've probably got 30 or 40 pounds of stone that I didn't use because but it's been this stone goes on sale, I'm going to buy some of it. And then the right pieces will be there the next time when I need them.
I don't know if you took advantage of it, and not a lot of people did. We didn't have this conversation in time, but one of our Black Friday deals was a 45-pound bag of rocks. And I think the idea being is exactly that, honestly, is to let people have kind of a bit of a backstock. And I thought that was going to be a little more popular than it was. And some people grab some bags, but especially if you can get a good deal on this stuff, there's no reason for you not to buy more than you need, so that you can figure out exactly how it's going to look best.
Exactly.
Got a couple, some other good questions in here, but I'm going to toss to Noah's Aquatics. Noah is actually one of our employees. And I meant to do this today, actually, but I totally forgot. And he's actually going to be one of the moderators on our YouTube channel here. So you'll be able to find him in the comments answering questions for us as well. And he says, definitely escape, when we were talking earlier about the pandemic and tanks as therapy is essentially what we were talking about. But definitely escape. Been working on my torch collection and doing some rescaping in my reef to de-stress. These concepts, and one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is the same concepts can be applied to saltwater and reef tanks for sure. Because I mean, a reef tank is essentially the comparable version of a planted tank. It has so many similarities. And I'm actually going to just to offshoot just real quick. I'm going to be doing some videos about how to simply set up a saltwater tank or how to set up a saltwater tank on a budget. It really doesn't have to be all of that, and it really doesn't have to be that intimidating. Look forward to that coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm scared to death of it.
Dude, you don't have to be. It's the thing, the beautiful thing of it is that you can be just like freshwater. I mean, not just like freshwater, but you can be as involved or not as you want to be in that tank. Now, the more automated you want this to be, or the more monitoring you want this to have, the more expensive it gets for sure. But dude, like, you could hook your saltwater tank up to a machine and never touch it again, and you're good to go. And I'll just tell you, it doesn't have to be difficult. But no, there is some more complexities to it. But if you're already messing with a planted tank, and you're interested in saltwater, there's no reason not to jump into it, outside of potential budgetary constraints, which I'm going to talk about here in the future soon. But like, seriously, if it interests you, go for it. It's really not that intimidating, or as intimidating as it looks. If you do a planted tank, you can do a reef tank.
It won't surprise you, but the ones that really intrigue me are the macroalgae tanks.
Of course.
Those are really, really cool.
You're right. That doesn't surprise me at all. But yes, actually, I was thinking about. I saw a gorgeous tank, and I forget who posted that. It was just earlier, like last week. Someone posted. It might have been like CChem or Fluval, or maybe it was like a reef to reef post or something like that. Anyway, they posted. This guy had like, it was like. If I were guesstimating, probably about 10 to 15 gallons, and he had 12 different species of macroalgae in there. And at first, when I was scrolling through, I was like, oh, that's a really cool freshwater tank. What kind of plant is that? Hang on a second.
Yeah. It might have been, there's a guy I follow on Instagram. I think it's Tyga Boy, Tigha.
That's exactly
BOY. And yeah, he's got a little macroalgae tank that is pretty insane.
It is. It's beautiful. I love it. Y'all should definitely check out that tank. Got some specific questions for you, Ryan. Mike Smith asks, do you use CO2? If not, what do you use for fertilizer?
Yeah, I do. All of my tanks are CO2 dosed. The two behind me, they have a single regulator, but with two, I don't even know what they're called. I'm not that technically minded, but two separate bubble counters. So on one tank, and then I've got a small, like a mini CO2 regulator for the nano tank up front. And yeah, I recommend CO2. I mean, it's just, I had the Fluval Edge, like 12, that was kind of what I started with, and that was my first scape.
Oh,
and
you had the 12.
Yeah, it was nice. Tall, and it was a
maintenance
nightmare, but
yes.
but I learned a lot, so I still love it. And it's just the CO2 has just, it boosts color, it boosts health, it just makes and for those who don't like delayed gratification as much, are a little more impatient, it really moves things along. It does add some maintenance, but I'm invested, and so that's what I want to do. But I also I'm sort of to the point in the hobby where I do want to create some fun little scapes that are just longer developing, non-CO2. Fertilizer. I use Tropica specialized all-in-one fertilizer. And that is because it's all-in-one. I'm a little bit lazy in that. I know that there's a lot of other like dosing models, and I tend to do like one pump of that a week. I started out fertilizing a lot more, but then realized I was actually getting, if you can kind of keep the plants on the edge of wanting more, they actually kind of color up a little bit more. And so I've just kind of settled in on doing like a pump, a Tropica specialized fertilizer once a week.
That's some good advice right there. Leave them wanting more. Absolutely. I don't know. So this next one feels like an inside joke. We'll find out.
Oh, goodness.
Steve, any plans for a bigger scape, maybe 120 centimeters?
I didn't realize there was going to be questions for my wife on here. You know, I would love the one that is behind me, the contest tank is, it's only 22 gallons or so. And it's 3 feet wide by a foot deep and a foot tall. So,
okay.
You know, that's kind of why I went more like diorama style, because I think it'll make the tank feel a lot bigger. But I would love to do a 120 or even a 90. And you know, that's maybe another year or two out.
Sure. Another question from Mike. What is your go-to soil for aquascaping? Currently using fluval stratum.
Well, like I said, I'm sort of new in the hobby, but I've had the chance to try 3 different soils. And I've used the Tropica aquarium soil.
Yeah.
I've used the Dennerley Scapers soil, and I've used the it's by Aquario, I think, Neo soil.
Okay.
And I've also used the Seachem,
the Aquasolum.
Yes. And to be honest, I can't tell a huge difference in performance because they're all like pretty nice soils.
Yeah.
The difference is on Tropica. What I like is they have 2 different soil, like a powder finish and like it's really nice on plants like carpeting plants that have more delicate roots to be able to put a layer of the powder on top.
Yeah,
helps them kind of. The Dennerley is what is in the tank that you see there. And what's kind of interesting about that is that it's the granules are not uniform. So, you know, there's some kind of bigger ones and smaller ones. And I sort of like that at the beginning of the scape, just because before the plants had really filled in, it felt kind of natural. You know, you're in nature, you're not really going to find like, you know, uniform ball type of soil. So, I like that. And then the Neo, I think is fine. It doesn't seem as nutrient rich. And then the Seachem, I felt like I needed to add some I can't remember, like I'm going to say pills, and I know that's not the right word, but the little soil inserts. Root tabs. So anyway, I think the point is that that is one area that if you are interested in aquascaping, I would not skimp on. I would make sure that your soil is good. If you're going with a gravel or a sand and are relying on root tabs, you're just rolling the dice, and they're probably limiting the amount of plants that are really going to be successful.
I think a lot of people do that for the aesthetic. And as you can see, I'm going to pop it. I just left a shot of it, but I'm going to pop it up again. But as you can see, over the parts where the soil is, it's covered. You're,
Yeah.
and if you're going to use a soil, your intention probably is to do something like that and get that and get that covered. It's not going to matter in the long run. However, if it is something that matters to you and you didn't like the look of that soil, there's also other options like like the fluorite options from CChem. There's like a dozen different types,
you can also, another way to do that is to lay your soil down and just keep the front glass clear of the soil.
And you've done something similar
and then just cap it with sand or gravel. I mean, that's kind of what's happening here
in a section. Yeah,
if you're on my Instagram page and my nano tank, it does that much more overtly. There's kind of sand at the front, and it's laying over soil, and the plants will grow into the sand, especially if they do have that base layer of nutrient-rich soil. But that's another way of just like making sure that your plants are getting what they need, and but then you don't have to sacrifice aesthetic really if you use that approach.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Let's see here. Fantastic question, Hansel. Just curious, how do you clean in an aquarium tank without ruining it? For example, fish poop, dead plant debris, and other detritus. How long do aquascape tanks last? So there's two questions in one here. Both fantastic questions, though.
Yeah, it really is, and you would be surprised at how hardy most plants are. And especially once they're established, it's going to take some doing. If I went and pulled on the carpet at the front of this tank, it would probably come up all in one piece.
Yeah.
So you can, you should not be shy about disturbing your plants and getting that detritus and waste material up and out of your tank. I mean, that's critical to kind of tamping back blackbeard and those kind of things. I feel like because I'm so new, I feel like I need to say in my experience as a qualifier for everything.
Sure. I mean, I think we should all qualify that way.
But for one, I mean, the plants themselves are going to take care of a lot of the fish poop. They're good filters in their own right. But one thing that I do, Hansel, is I have a turkey baster, and I go through and I blow it through all the moss and in the foreground where a lot of it settles, and I just follow along behind with my siphon. And as I'm blowing that detritus and waste material out of the moss or out of the carpet, just siphoning it right out. And as far as how long aquascape tanks last, that, like so many questions, just depends. If I continue to fertilize and add tabs, you can get several years out of a tank. Your soil is probably not going to be as nutrient rich, so you may need to do more fertilizing. And for a period of time, the soil will actually act as a buffer, and will start to, if you're liquid fertilizing, it will start taking some of that on. Mm-hmm. But there is a lifespan for that as well. But a couple of years, and then maybe you start adding some root tabs or whatever, and you can keep it going. But I think if you're anything like me, one of the things that's so fun about aquascaping is the actual creation part. So there's going to come a time where I'm going to take, as much as I love the tank that's in view, I'm either going to use the same wood and make something new, or I'm going to take it all out and start over. But I do want to get the experience of basically reefscaping what's there, reusing the plants, reusing the wood to just make something slightly different.
Now, you're not again, to my knowledge, using any existing stuff, but the competition, the dry set behind you is a Reef set, right? It was something completely different.
Yeah, it was. I did use the same kind of stone in the previous one, mostly so that I could use what was some of that inventory towards building this one.
For sure.
But it was a redo. Although there's a lot of plants that will live on in this one. Like, you know, I'd grown a lot of anubias and Bucephalandra and things like that are in a holding tank in the basement for now. But
I suppose that's another aspect of it. As far as the plants go, the plants themselves will go on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like example, like yes, your substrates and things of that nature, those are going to deplete. But let's say I could do a planted tank technically I can do a planted tank in a substrate-less tank with plants that grow on driftwood. And at that point, I'm just liquid dosing.
Yep.
That's going to keep going and going and going and going until I get bored and I change the tank. you know. But yeah, great question there. Let's see here. What else we got? Darren Wilson, do you guys follow Vish Aquatics on Instagram? His plant game is amazing. I don't. I'm not familiar with them, but now I'm gonna have to go look.
Yeah, I'll it's not something that is ringing a bell, but there's a good chance I'm following him.
Right. Absolutely. Oh, and that actually, I don't know why this specifically reminded me, but going back to Hansel's question real quick, the first one about cleaning, you mentioned, Ryan, the turkey baster that you use.
Yeah.
On and I now know how I got to this, but on a larger tank, a turkey baster can be a little tedious. I will take just a power head, like an actual power head, and just blow it through my rock work. And I'll do that in heavily rocked tanks. It doesn't have to be just planted tanks, like African cichlid setups, to where I've built it out like I would a reef tank or actual reef tanks. I just blow through all that rock work and stir that all up. And now I'm either usually coming through with like a fine grade net, or I'm running what we call the machine. If it's in the store, we have a big old, like 3 foot tall 4-chambered polishing machine that will run the stuff through. But yeah, that's something that you can do as well on a larger tank if you didn't want to get as tedious. It's in a
I guess the takeaway is that it's just about anything that will disturb the substrate or the mosses or the plants. I mean, people use their hands or whatever, but yeah, a fire hose if you need it.
Right. I got another one for Mike Smith, going back to CO2. Any advice for first-time CO2 user? Want to start but nervous?
Yeah, I would say, I think that everybody who starts CO2 feels nervous about it. But having done it multiple times, there really is nothing to be nervous about. You have all the resources that you could possibly need on YouTube or whatever for like getting the dosing amount right. You can be, and I would say just starting slow and working your way up. You know, if you can get it's called a drop checker. It's like a little, you'll see it in I think the Reef display tank has one in it, and it's basically a little glass piece like this that curls over and has a little globe that holds some liquid. And when that turns kind of the lime green, the liquid inside turns lime green, you're at a pretty good level. But it does take a little while for that CO2 to ramp up to that level. So, just to give it a couple of days, and I think what you want to avoid is making it go up and down too much too soon, because that can cause an algae bloom, and that's usually it's like hair algae usually are going to show up when you do that, and I've had that happen, a couple of times where maybe the timer on my CO2 has not gone on when I thought it was and wasn't paying attention, and then I turn the CO2 back on. There's some minor algae issues, but I think those would be the main things. It's really not anything to fear at all. Just making sure that you take good care of the tank to and from. So there's a safety issue of making sure your hoses and everything are pretty airtight, and otherwise just let it do its thing, and your plants are going to react really well to it. I promise you that.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I would say, and you mentioned it as put it on a timer. That alleviates you forgetting, because, and the reason being is if you're running this at night, your plants aren't actually absorbing that essentially. And that's just blowing CO2, just pumping it into your fish, essentially.
That's a great point. And I would say a general rule of thumb is have it come on 2 hours before lights on, so that it has a chance to kind of build up in your water column, lights on, and then cut it off about an hour before lights out. Yeah,
for sure. I think what I would also recommend is, and I almost hesitate to say this because we sell them, but I haven't found like an all-in-one kit specifically that I'm a huge fan of. If you're gonna put a CO2, grab and again, this is going to depend on the size of your tank. I've popped on those fluval ones. If you're going to do the kits, I really enjoy those. There's pros and cons to those as well, but they're put together fairly well if you get the larger kit. But those are good for just tiny nano tanks if you're dealing with something real small. Honestly, if you're dealing with anything over 20 gallons, spring for an actual tank that you're going to have to get from a gas company or something like that. It's worth it, and just pop a regulator on top. We sell the Milwaukee regulators, which I really like, and those have the bubble counter and things like that included with it. But yeah, if you want to be serious about it, don't skimp on the rig. Get a nice rig. And get something, and get your little your diffusers, bubble counters, and things like that. All of this is going to make it so much simpler for you to kind of break down and understand as it's running.
And Mike, if you want to reach out to me on Instagram, and if you have any follow-up questions, I'm happy to answer. I'd love to help in any way I can.
And speaking of, Mr. Beast says, I did an island scape, no CO2, and trim the plants every other week, and now I have a forest. Yeah, and that's a good point as well. Is we're talking about CO2 and how beneficial it is, but for a lot of plants, it's not a necessity. All plants will benefit from CO2. But there's absolutely stuff out there that I've literally put an Anubias in a bag with minimal amount of water, left it in a windowsill. Don't ask me how, and forgot about it. I come back a month later, this thing is doubled in size inside the bag that I brought it home in. So yeah, there's a plant for every situation. But again, everything's going to benefit from CO2 for sure. Noah,
they'll benefit from trimming too, so get on that.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see here. Awesome. So I don't have any follow-up questions. I'm going to ramble for just a moment, and if you do have any questions, drop them in the comments. Otherwise, we'll start wrapping up here. But I do want to go back and plug Ryan's Instagram again. If you're just joining us, welcome. And if you have been watching and are not yet and enjoying this, smash that subscribe, but it's over there now. Smash that subscribe button and hit that bell notification. That's going to let you know every time we go live. And this is hopefully going to be now a regular thing where I bring guests on. And Ryan, I hope you'll come back and join us at some point.
Love to, man.
I feel like this has gone very well and whatnot. But going back to that, I want to plug your Instagram again. And we are on the Aquascaping Rhino, RYNO. And yeah, you've got 1,200 and almost 50 followers now. And I feel like I see that number ticking up almost like daily for you, man. But look at the quality of this content. This is your latest photo. When did you post this? Like
just this morning.
That dog is adorable.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome, and he's been very quiet during this, which is amazing.
So proud of him. But yeah, this is we showed this tank in another picture. This is the same tank that had the explosion of toys around it earlier. But as you can see, just the main focus of this is your tanks and specifically, in my opinion, your hardscape. And I love this picture, dude. That's it. You started doing some like more not necessarily portrait, but you started becoming the subject of some of your pictures, and I really enjoy seeing you at work. That's nifty. I like it.
I appreciate that.
Like this one here. Yeah, that's another good one. And okay, just to talk about, and this is a simple little quip. You've done much longer things than this, but when I was talking about how you actually put out your thoughts on things as well, you don't just focus on the actual photos themselves. But it's simple. Planning my tank out, maintenance or spacing out. Yes, absolutely. But no, you have such good insights onto different aspects of what you're doing. And I highly encourage you to, if you're not already, pop on to the Aquascaping Rhino and subscribe there. Speaking of subscribing, go ahead and jump onto ours as well. We're at TheReefIndy, but I try to post. We post something almost every day, Monday through Friday, anyway. And I try to keep it nice and varied since we are salt fresh and all of that. But I guess since it's right here, I'm going to mention it. But we are hiring currently. We have 3 new positions open. So if that is something that interests you, please apply at TheReefIndy.com. And check out those specifications first. There's actually it's like 3 completely different tier levels of jobs here. We have a management position running our service department, which we have, by the way. If we do absolutely anything you need. If you need, have you ever seen Tanked? We've been on it. We can do what they can do. So give us a call and we can work on your tank. But one of those jobs is managing that and scheduling out the services and things of that nature. And we have that all the way down to we need just a new aquatic specialist, but we are looking for experience. Elizabeth, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Elizabeth's one of our regulars. This is awesome. Thanks for commenting. That it's always awesome to hear feedback. And speaking of feedback, If you have enjoyed this particular live stream, or in any of our live streams in general, I suppose, but this is the one we're doing now since we're live. If you've enjoyed this, drop some love in the comments, or if you have any ideas on who I should bring on as guests, drop them in the comments or shoot a message. If you have any ideas on any general content that you want to see us put out, not just in these live videos, but in our other videos that we post as well, let me know in the comments. Elizabeth, speaking of hiring, says her coworker says I can't come work over there. They would lose probably a great person, I imagine. That one guy, and actually we plugged his Instagram as well, because he's got a cool tank that he's working on with some cichlids. I'm gonna have to try and do some actual scape in my 20 long. My Passionis and swordtails ate the little bit of plants I tried, and they might mess with that. And that's a good. That's a good question. So Passionis, for those of you who are not familiar, those are an earth eater cichlid species. So they're going to dig a lot in the substrate, and the only way to get around that is a lot of people think you can't keep plants with cichlids, and that's actually not true. You can. You're just basically stuck to keeping stuff on your hardscape and your driftwood. You don't want anything on the ground, because most of your cichlids are just going to dig, and basically just keep them hardy. Anubia, if you're going to put them on driftwood, you have to. Anubias, Buse, Java ferns. For African cichlids, don't bother with moss; they're just going to eat it. But I've seen plenty of South Central American cichlids hanging out with a bunch of Java moss in the tank. It works. So where there is a will, there is a way. You can put live plants in any tank. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good idea. Mr. B says you should definitely make a video on the display tanks maintenance and filtration. I have maintenance and filtration. That's a really good idea. I do have a video out there, kind of giving you just the general tour. But I definitely should kind of focus on what it takes to take care of these tanks. That's a fantastic idea. Thank you. Yes. Oh, and that one guy we were talking about his tank a moment ago with the Passionis. It's a very similar species to the firemouth. Yep. Which again are in a category of fish known as earth eaters. And there's a reason for that name. So yeah, they're just gonna dig, which a lot of fish will. But actually, speaking of fish, Ryan, what's the stock in here? What kind of fish do you keep? We've been talking about your hardscaping plants this whole time.
Yeah. So in this tank is just some Harlequin rasbora. There are two cardinals that are holdovers from my fluval edge tank that I couldn't bear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Losing. They've been such good soldiers. And then I've got a lot of different shrimp. A whole fleet of Amano shrimp, and some cherry shrimp, but mostly like in the kind of oranges and yellows. And then some. I've got the scientific name in my head. It's like the horned nearite snails.
The Spixies.
Yeah, so they're I think Clython corona is their scientific name.
No, not the Spixies. Those are the nearite species. That's a completely different species. Yeah. Horned nearites. Those are super cool.
Yeah, and they're amazing because they will take out blackbeard algae, which is my ultimate nemesis. It's the only one that I like. The other algae, when they come and go, it's like, I can live with them. Blackbeard, I don't like, but they will actually go at those, and they don't leave the eggs all over the place like a regular nearite snail. Like the white eggs that'll get on the driftwood, and if you're super meticulous and get annoyed by that like I do, then you should look up the horn variety.
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic suggestion. And I'm actually going to pop up another picture. You were talking about your shrimp, but I don't think I've shown off any of those.
Oh
And this is
yeah.
just from our Facebook page here, off the post I did plugging our interview today. But I love this shot of him just hanging on.
You know, and that is not unusual. And this tank that it's a Areocalon, is that plant, and the Amanos and all the shrimp kind of do that because I think when I'm feeding, or there's some biofilm on they like getting up on that
Yeah,
edge, but then once they get out too far, they just kind of start sinking down, and then
yeah,
they kind of work on the ends of that Areocalon. But yeah, I love that. And speaking of livestock, in the nano tank up front, it's shrimp. It's I got those I got those stones when I was in visiting a friend in Africa and brought them back, and then I wanted to build a tank around it, and so I settled on crystal blacks just because it reminded me of like little zebra on
yeah,
the plains around my
yeah.
African rock. So and man, I love shrimp. I
They're
can
great.
go. I like they have such specific requirements and all that, and I tend to kind of like look it up and then hope for the best because I'm not great with like the science part of everything. But
Yeah.
they I can watch them for hours. I'm a
Oh yeah.
huge fan of shrimp.
They're super fun to do, and again, you have some great shots of them. Now, and I have a couple more questions, and I'm going to get to those in a moment. But while I'm here and looking at this post I made earlier, I actually we were talking about your competition, and it's nowhere near on the scale that you of the other competitions that you've entered, but everything, all the pictures that I posted in that little promo for us today were photos that you have entered into our monthly photo contest at one point or the other over the past couple years. And here's that little here's the
Yeah,
horn that you're talking about. And I love this shot. This was when the theme was
product shots.
yeah. Which this was genius. I loved that. And then this was one of our.
I think that was the first one I ever posted, and that's
I'm
of the
pretty sure
fluval. That's the
this is
fluval
the swivel
edge.
edge. Nice, very cool.
Java
And
fern.
there's two of those
Yeah,
cardinals.
I'd like to think it was two of those. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably it is totally is. This one was when our theme was filtration. Getting that shot down the tank with the lily pipes, plus the moss is filtration. You tried to get in the moss is filtration, but you knew that wasn't what I was talking about.
Yeah. I'm a good lobbyist.
Yeah. This is another just fantastic shot that when I was scrolling through Instagram, I didn't even notice the fish at first, and I thought you were just in your backyard
Yeah.
or something, and taking a shot from below.
Yeah,
This is such a cool shot, dude. I love this.
You want to know how it was made?
Please.
It's a piece of white foam core, which is like basically like white cardboard that I sort of laid down at an angle. And then I took an IKEA desk lamp and bounced it off that to create that kind of warm hot spot. And so that's my Instagram is like, I don't own like a real camera. I use my phone. But what I do is I have black foam core and white foam core, and I just kind of manage the light that I have.
Yeah.
And I have enough experience in that realm that I can do okay. But yeah, so I'm like, you should see some of the setups that I have sometimes to just get like a decent shot. And fortunately for me, Instagram, you're only seeing things this big. There's some shots that I've done that look really nice there, but if I were to blow them up, to an 11 by 17, you would start to see some serious flaws.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's why Instagram's a great medium, man. It can cover up a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, honestly, I'm even when you're looking at them on like a computer or something like that, which who does that other than probably like me? But but even then, you're still viewing them in a larger setting, and they're great, man. Back to the picture.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's just your
yeah. That was before the pandemic grow out happened.
Yeah, the pre-pandemic grow out. Yeah, for sure. And we did have a few more questions here, at least one. I'll give a couple more questions. Let's see here. Hansel with another one. Last quick question. Where do I glue stem plants? Most stem plants you're not. Most stem plants you're just going to root into, and typically what you're going to glue down, and I suppose it depends on the plant, but I suppose you could glue a stem. But most of the plants that you're going to glue down, you're going to want to do off of a rhizome or a heavy root structure typically. Like for example, Anubias, there's that like thick green portion where all the roots are coming off of, and that's what I put the glue on. Any feedback on that, Ryan?
Yeah, I wouldn't glue a stem plant. There's plants like the hydrocotyle tripartita and stuff that is a pretty vigorous grower that you can grow those as an epiphyte. So epiphyte basically means that it gets its nutrients from the water column, so like Anubias and those kinds of things. But you can actually, I'll sometimes like stick it down into moss that I've gotten, or just into cracks. And in fact, like, maybe this is my own neuroses, but I try not to glue plants if I can help it. There's places where I'm going to have to, but if I can glue a twig of wood to another piece of wood that gives me something to hold the plant, I'd rather do that. I have lost plants, and there's some mosses that will die because of super glue, but you can glue those epiphytes that you were talking about. I wouldn't recommend gluing a stem plant though.
I mean, I suppose in theory you could try something like that's going to draw more nutrients out of the water column, like the nausea grass, aka guppy grass, or something like that. You could attempt it, but 9 times out of 10 it's probably not going to work. But yeah. Elizabeth coming in with best plants for a low-tech unheated tank. I've got all my coworkers into nano setups. That's awesome. Best plants for low-tech unheated. I mean, honestly, the unheated part is not necessarily a factor. Most plants are going to want it cooler. In fact,
your plants are going to love that.
Yeah. Putting them in a tank that's like 78 to 82 is their high end, and we're usually compensating to with like nutrients or something, to help them feel more comfortable in that environment. But yeah, they're going to be fine in the lower temperatures. As far as low tech, there's lots of options out there. Obviously, the biggest plant in the ring is going to be Anubias. That's your most common. That's your most popular. But within Anubias, there are 6 to 8 readily available varieties. There's more varieties than that you can get a hold of, but readily available varieties. They're even coming out with some like. I don't know if they're hybrids, or I don't know if this is just selective propagation or whatever, but they're coming out with like these new strains of Anubias that are like variegated petites and things of that nature. So you can find some pretty crazy stuff that's actually really easy to take care of. But that in I would say Buse are probably my 2 front runners as far as the easiest plants to do in that kind of setup. Now Buse is, they're all going to want some attention still, but Those are great. As far as other plants, you can't go wrong with some cryptocorns. Those have always been a nice hardy plant for me. Any of those Wendy varieties are awesome and should flourish in just about anything.
And they should. I was going to say, with those, a lot of times they are prone to melting, especially when you're changing them from one tank to another. And you can usually what I will do with the cryptocrine is cut off all the leaves except for the most juvenile, because it's usually those longer ones that are going to go away. So I just kind of preemptively save myself the heartbreak of plant melt is do that. And they are slow growing, but once they get going, they're really nice. And as far as carpeting plants and foreground plants, Liliopsis brasiliensis, which I think the common name, it may just be like a microsort or something. Those do well in low light, non-CO2. Also, Marsilea crenata is nice, and actually those two together make a really nice carpet. And then Java ferns also do pretty well in no CO2. But there's a few varieties of Java fern, and I've had success with the more the regular kind of common Java fern. I haven't had as much success in no CO2 with the trident fern that you see in the tank behind, or Wendeloff. There's a few different kind of more ornamental varieties that for me they tended to struggle a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. No, but you're right. The common name on the on that Brasiliensis, that's just microsword. What we know is microsword, and that's a really good one of my. Have you ever tried the cryptocorn parva?
Yeah, oh yeah, they're awesome. I use them in just about every scape that I do.
They are so slow
yeah
to grow.
They are. I tried growing it as a carpet and lost hope, but I always add it as an accent. If you have Monte Carlo or some other carpeting plant, but then throw some of that in there, it just adds a nice little detail, and they're really beautiful and delicate and super slow growing.
Very, very slow growing, and I've had no one get legitimately mad at me, but I have recommended parva as a carpeting plant, but I always try to go in with the you're going to need to get a lot of this. It is not going to spread quickly. I'm talking years. We had back in one of our original freshwater display, when it was a 150-gallon cube tank, 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot. That we had, I tried so hard to just get a carpet going, and we were adding, and I was just trying to get it to grow quicker, and it just no matter how much you baby it, it's going to go at its own pace. and if you want a carpet of parva, you're going to have to buy a carpet of parva. You're not going to grow it in any sort of time frame that you're going to be patient enough for. Anyone, I don't care about what your patience level you have to be also someone who enjoys keeping bonsais to enjoy growing out a carpet of parva. That takes forever. Let's see here. That one guy, yes, we already did mention it, but just to reiterate, we may have just kind of skipped over this, but that one guy is asking what kind of camera you use for your photos.
It's an iPhone 11 or I don't know. It's not new.
For mine, my Google Pixel 5.
But it's kind of remarkable what you can get out of a phone camera with a tripod a little, I have 2 tripods that are like so cheap. They each came with little remotes, and you set it on a tripod. You have your remote. You control the light, and then snap away, and you can get pretty good stuff.
Yeah,
Like
for
stuff that
sure.
doesn't even require a filter. Like if you just control the light, and which aquariums is tough. That they usually have a completely different color temperature than the other lights in the room.
Yep.
And sometimes you want it to be nice and airy and all that, and other times you want it to be kind of dark um, and moody. And so yeah, it's just the equipment for me it's a limiter, but I still think I can make some things that people can appreciate and learn
It's
from
not
with
even.
pretty basic equipment.
It's not even. In my opinion, I don't think it's that much of a limiter. Because look at your stuff, man, and look at it, and look at other people's stuff. Not just to keep tooting your horn, but
Yeah,
a lot of people are using just their cell phones, coming up with a good shot. Instagram is awesome with the level of editing that you can just do within the app itself. You can do a lot to your photo to really bring it out, but you actually have to take the time to do that, and make it look like a better shot, have a better crispness to it, or a better sharpness, and messing with your contrast if it needs it. It's gonna
yeah.
That's something else that you practice as well as messing with editing that, and setting up your shots and things of that nature. But yeah, you can get some really nice stuff with just a simple cell phone. And yeah, he and I are mentioning relatively newer models. He said iPhone 11. I'm rocking a Pixel 5 right now.
I
But
don't have an 11. I think it's a XR or something, but
the what I was running off of, now mind you, this is just months ago. So if you've been following the Reef's Instagram, the camera that I most recently used was the iPhone 7. Before that, I was using the crappy 6S, and in my opinion, coming up with some decent shots. And so again, you can use years old phones and still come up with some decent stuff. But yeah, and there's I honestly, in contrast, I should reach out to like Mo Devlin or something like that, who does like photography for like the fish magazines and things like that, like Tropical Fish Hobbyist. You're going to see a lot of Mo's work in there, and things like that. And I've seen him at work with a large rig, and yeah, he gets some great shots, and yeah, they're better than my shots from my cell phone. But yeah, don't think that you are taking an inferior, like a crap photo because you're using your phone. You can come up with some really good stuff.
exactly.
Oh, what else we got here? You guys have been awesome popping in these comments, giving us plenty to talk about. Mr. Beast, to answer your question, I'm not going to pop it up here, but give the shop a call. And yeah, we do take in donations, but you got to let us know about them. Here is a pretty good question. John Kim asks, where is the best place to buy quality driftwood online? Spider driftwood. Personally, and this isn't from... yes, I am on the Reef Aquarium Shop's website or YouTube, and I am absolutely going to take a question about buying something that I don't currently have for sale online. I hate buying driftwood online because I don't see it. Now, some places you're going to get, WYSIWYG, but your best place is your LFS, and having the pieces in front of you, in my opinion. Yeah, you can, like, we were talking earlier about buying stuff in bulk. If you don't have good access to get your wood from a local fish store, if they don't carry it, ask them to, because if they're not, they should be. Why aren't they? And if you'd be surprised what you can get from your LFS if you just ask. Ryan knows all about this, in fact. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But just ask them and see if you can bring it in. I much prefer to see a piece in front of me. That way I can actually like see all the intricacies and whether I'm going to be able to work with it or not. Anyway, as far as getting something online, we are about to start doing this on our webpage, where it's going to be a what you see, what you get. Currently unavailable. And if I were on, if I had a second camera or could go mobile, I'm on my desktop, just like on the other side of this wall from me, we have a shelf where we're putting together presets for aquascaping. Like, we are going to actually set up this aquascape, rocks and driftwood, take a picture of this aquascape that we've put together for you. You're going to buy exactly what you see. We put it in a box with a picture of what it looked like and a diagram of how to put it back together and send it to you. Not only are we going to do that for the people who want a cool looking tank, but either, like we were talking about earlier, don't think they can, you can, but if you don't think you can and aren't going to try, we will have sets for you to just, oh, that looks cool. Here you go. If you ever put something together from IKEA, you can put together this this aquascape that we've set for you. But in addition to that, we will be selling individual pieces of rocks and wood online as WYSIWYGs, or that we'll have random lots as well. Have you, Ryan, sorry, have you ever purchased your wood online?
I have not purchased wood online. I've purchased stone online, where I'm, kind of going more for volume. But wood, you're looking for pretty specific qualities a lot of times. And yeah, like you, I sort of need to get my hands on it and look at it and sort of visualize it. And and truthfully, that's part of the fun for me, is
the hunt.
Is the hunt, yeah. And so, I have gotten I've gotten wood at flea markets. I've gotten it out of Lake Michigan. I've gotten it from the Reef. I've got other local retailers that but I almost always like kind of have an idea of what I'm going for, and then I just and plus it's like you hear musicians say sometimes that what comes first, the lyrics or the music, and it's like, well, it kind of depends. Sometimes I will get a piece of wood or a piece of hardscape that inspires the design. That becomes kind of the starting point. And I just don't know that you're going to have that moment even on a WYSIWYG, or it's possible that you could win the lottery and somebody gives you a piece that just lights you up creatively, but that's a big roll of the dice, especially like driftwood isn't cheap, and so I kind of like to know what I'm getting.
Yeah, I think just to summarize and wrap this question up, if you can get it somewhere local where you can, or just somewhere where you can physically see it and have it in front of you. If your local fish stores around you don't have something like that, ask them to get it in, and they more than likely will for you. And if you don't have options beyond that, if you have to get a piece of wood online, because they're just so unique, try to find a what you see, what you get, where the exact picture you are looking at is the exact piece that's coming to you. Find availability for that, and then just check out the reviews and see what people are saying about them. Everyone's got some bad reviews out there, but specifically pay attention to their like shipping and stuff like that. That's for a dry good. That's what you're going to be paying attention to, and just Yeah, patented
And
those things. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think I've been pretty clear that I don't buy the wood online, generally speaking. But you know, as it relates to other buying uh, experiences, you know, I've gotten stone from all over the place, but I almost always don't just like click the buy this thing. I almost always send or have a chat with the online retailer about what I'm going for. You know, like what am I hoping to accomplish? And then I found that that's useful in, um, you know, not only but like buying rare plants and things like that. That you almost always find people in this industry who are happy to help you, and will kind of look out for your purchase. And if they don't, then you probably need to find another retailer.
Yeah, agreed. Speaking of which, you had a situation. What is that sitting up there? You had a situation where you were looking for a very specific filter. Like you knew the exact one that you wanted. You wanted to get it locally, but we didn't have it on our shelves. You just gave us a call and we ordered it for you, no problem. Oh, you want this? Cool.
Yeah.
And there's also been other instances where I recall specifically you asked me for I say me because it was directed to me online, but but you were asking us for a specific brand of tank that we did not and still do not carry at this time. But actually the only reason we didn't bring it in for you is because we would have had to make a larger order to bring other stuff in with where we would have had to get it from. Otherwise, no question, we would have grabbed that. But yeah, no, it never hurts to ask. What was that? What was that filter that you?
It's the Oase thermo. So it's all my filters are Oase brand, and it partly because they have a built-in heater, and the Biomaster has like a removable, like a quick release removable pre-filter, which is, I mean, if you're changing water on multiple tanks, is just a convenience that I can't quite do without. But
sure.
yeah, it was the Oase FiltoSmart thermo, I think, that I got from you for the nano tank, and it's this tidy little filter with a built-in heater, and yeah, you know, as always, if I know there's something specific that I want, and there usually is something specific that I want, I do want to see if I can buy it through you guys, because, you know, buying local is a value of mine, and it is important to me.
And we always appreciate it.
And you've always, yeah, and you know, more often than not, you're able to oblige. But I'll always ask.
Yeah, and we're happy to. And you know, it's that also helps. And this isn't just specifically with our shop, but you know, if you want to get getting good with us, yeah, I always just come in and have the conversation with us. If you're looking for something and we don't have it on our shelves, instead of getting it offline, ask us if we can get it. And in that, that's like any LFS, from whether it's going to be us or wherever you personally go. You're going to get some mad respect for that, and they're going to get that in for you. And then if you do that on a regular basis, then like, you know, trying to find certain things and going through them first before going to anywhere else to do it, you're liable to get like certain perks out of it. Maybe like a big old bag full of twigs that you didn't ask for, but definitely needed in your life. Exactly. Ryan had asked if we had any smaller pieces of driftwood in the warehouse, because we were out in the shop. So I went back and looked, and then we did have some. So it was all right. You know, sent them over to the store for them to look at. But while I was digging for these small pieces of wood, I found this bag of odds and end spiderwood pieces. It was literally just a bag of twigs, and that it was going to end up probably in the trash at some point in the next, like, I don't know, 5 years. So it was but I thought, okay, if anyone's going to appreciate this bag of twigs and show it some love, it's going to be Ryan. So I sent it over, and it's all at your house now.
I am among a very small minority of people, I think, in the world who could be excited about a bag of twigs.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that can get excited over a twig.
A lot of other weirdos.
You're definitely one of them. There's plenty of weirdos. Yes. There's plenty of other weirdos out there. I've got another question, and then I am going to probably start wrapping us up. We'll take this last question from Tim and talk about some CABOMBA. Tim asks, have you had any success with CABOMBA? Any tips or trips for success? And I guess the prerequisite, some people may not know this, but CABOMBA is a mysterious jerk of a plant. You can put it, you can send it out to anywhere. You've got like a 50-50. People come back and tell me, yeah, I just tossed CABOMBA in a tank and it grows like crazy. And other people go through excruciating measures to try to keep this alive and can't. So I found keeping this, giving advice on CABOMBA is difficult for me because of that. Because sometimes it just seems to take, sometimes it doesn't. Have you ever dealt with CABOMBA, Ryan?
I'm going to plead ignorance here. I've never heard of CABOMBA, but now I need to Google it.
It's a stem plant that is real bushy, almost like it's like a softer version of hornwort and a harder version of ambulia, if you're familiar with ambulia. And it's got that kind of needle leaf kind of look to it. I'm actually going to but yeah, honestly, it can be a real hit and miss. The best advice that I can give you is to not overheat it. I typically am not trying to put CABOMBA in a discus tank or anything like that. Keep it nice and cool. The books say that it's medium light to low light. Give it that medium to high, and you're going to do a lot better off. And this is another plant that should benefit from CO2. There are a couple stems out there though that do not fare well with CO2. Am I right? There's something out there that hates it, or maybe it's not CO2 specifically. Maybe it's just maybe it was just like CO2 supplements, the liquid CO2.
Oh, yeah.
Liquid CO2. It's creating the same effect ish. But yeah, it's CABOMBA is just a try it and see what happens kind of plant, in my opinion. And there's certain things you can do to attempt to get that to grow better. My advice is to give it some liquid supplements and give it higher light than what some people would recommend. And that's the best way I found out about it. If you're having issues, in my experience, you're just kind of having issues with CABOMBA. A lot of people can just, again, toss it in their tank and not look at it, and fills it up.
That makes me wonder if it's a hard water, soft water issue. Like if some people
I'm sorry about this. Yeah, I can. I'm just getting a little fuzzy, but I don't think anything's up on my end, but it looks like it was still on my end because my camera went down too. Weird. But what were you saying? If you can still hear me?
I was just, I was wondering if it kind of makes me wonder if it's so hit and miss, if it is more of like a hard water, soft water issue. between all these people who are having success or not having success with it. All of the other things being equal, some plants are really, really particular about their hard water, and some are really, really particular about their soft water. That area Kalan, this plant here in the foreground, it would not do well in hard water.
That's very true.
No matter what CO2 I have and all that. So that is just an educated guess, and please don't hold me to that, since I'm only hearing about CABOMBA today.
The most of this hobby is guess and check. Yeah, there's plenty of information out there, but as we were talking about earlier, we have to kill some plants, and we're going to kill some fish and learn from it. And that's what I mean by this whole hobby is guess and check. So
just to give one of my favorite Instagram friends is it's Cookie Dough Scapes, and he has a bunch of no CO2, just incredibly beautiful aquascapes, and he does have some CO2, but his smaller tanks and nano tanks are on non CO2.
Yeah.
And his methodology is what you were just saying. It's like, he loses some plants, but he just takes the ones that are thriving in that particular tank and just keeps trimming them and growing them, and so then he just kind of settles on the ones that are working. So it's not great for the budget per se, but it's part of it that you just kind of have to accept, is that in houseplants, some houseplants survive well in certain homes and others they don't. It's kind of the same with aquatic plants.
Tell me about it, man. I've lost like half of these starting my collection back here, but not half of them. I've lost like 3 of them. I've got a lot more than that.
Not trying to open any wounds there.
Yeah. But yeah, that's obviously everyone can have different approaches to the hobby. Some people are going to be a little more investigative, a little more meticulous. My personal approach to specifically the planted tank anyway is the guess and check style. That's totally me. Toss some stuff in a tank, and what sticks. And obviously there's plenty more to that. You're going to know the general care requirements for these, and you want to not just grab one of each, please, and toss it into the same setting. That's obviously not going to work. But within those plants that should work in your scenario, some are going to stick, some aren't. Yeah. Definitely.
The pearlweed in the foreground to this plant right here.
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
I didn't even put that in my tank. The foreground, I don't know how it got in. I know sometimes it gets mixed in with Monte Carlo, because when it's really small, they look pretty similar.
Yeah.
But it's supposedly like an advanced plant, but I'll trim it and it'll float away into the Java fern, and it will like grow there forever if you want. I mean, I found it to be the easiest plant, and it's beautiful. It's added a lot of texture. Is a complete surprise to the tank, and I've just sort of like put it all across the front, and I'm letting it grow a lot higher on the right side of the tank there.
Yeah.
And it still looks nice, kind of like this leggy stem plant there in the foreground, but then you can trim it really short and it will get compact and kind of bushy. And yeah, so it was a surprise, and is one that is like just kind of taken off in this tank, and I've embraced it.
Yeah, very cool. That's sometimes what you got to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we don't have any fresh questions, and I have talked your ear off at this point. But
the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we've been talking to Ryan Noel, the Aquascaping Rhino, RYNO on Instagram. Check out all of that. If you have been enjoying this content and digging what we have to say, or you know, getting lost in it, give this video a like. And also, and I keep doing that, it's over there now, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification to let you know when we go live. That way you don't miss things like this. Again, thank you so much for coming on and doing this, and just giving us a piece of your mind about the hobby. This has been great. I had a good time, and I hope you'll come back at some point.
Anytime, man. I really enjoyed it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think we'll let that be our parting thoughts, and I appreciate you guys watching and joining and liking and subscribing, and we will see you Monday if I don't see you on our Facebook page on Thursday. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time.